People have been asking, what is Sump? Is this a new production company? Is it a band? Sump is not a band. It's a multimedia content collective. The idea is that I'm going to get all of the most creative motherfuckers that I know together, and we're going to make music and videos and skits and all types of shit. I feel like the band thing is limiting. How would you describe Sump's music? Well, how would you describe Downtown Brown's music? It's me and some friends making some noise. So eat that friggin' content. Also, we just got hats. We're rolling, I guess. This isn't optimal. You're just gonna go from David to self, like flip.
Oh, there's audio, there's video as well.
Yeah. This is my crappy camera, but we have the iPhone too, so I'm gonna cut between both. This is not optimal, but we're in traffic right now. Wefton, can you show the traffic?
Yeah, it's back the fuck up.
Yeah. Hey, we're here right now. My name is Neil Patterson. This is my podcast, but we're doing it in the van. We're back in the van. Pandemic is over, and I'm here with Mr.
The pandemic's not over.
The pandemic is in the eye of the public. I feel like it's over. Don't you think?
Yeah, people seem to think that that's the case, but it's not.
Right.
It'll never be over.
You said you're friends with an epidemiologist, correct?
That's right.
What is their name?
Pomina Gorbach.
I've never heard a name like that.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Is it Pomina?
Pomina. I think it's Pomina. Pomena, I think. And she I don't know. I mean, she's Ellen's friend, but she's an acquaintance of mine. She did some kind of thing like ending sexually trafficked diseases in Thailand or something like that, and the government gave her some giant award.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hey, but let's get into it. I'm here with Mr. David Yao from the bands Scratch Acid, Flipper, and the Jesus Lizard. And right now we're on tour with Flipper, and we're in traffic. Wefton, what kind of traffic? Probably an overturned semi, but we've been sitting here. We've been talking about doing this podcast for the last 5 days or so. And now we're actually doing it because we're bored.
Yeah, we've been sitting here parked with the ignition off for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's been something.
Say that in the microphone.
Yeah, that's been something.
We're here with Wefton. Wefton's holding the cameras, and I have my laptop right here. So I apologize for the crappy camera quality, but here we are. Let's have a conversation with Mr. David Yao. David Yao, Flipper, what are we doing right now currently?
I thought you just covered that. We're parked in traffic on our way from Houston to Dallas on a little tour where we'd been opening for a band called The Garden for the most part of the tour, and then we've got I've got 3 more shows in Texas, and then Flipper has 2 more in Oklahoma, and then that tour's over.
How did you get to become the singer for Flipper in recent years?
Steve got in touch. Steve DePace, he's the drummer and manager of Flipper, called me up after Chrome had done a show at the Echoplex in Los Angeles, and what's his name? God damn it, brain fog. What's the guitar? Helios Creed asked me to come up on stage and do a song with him, and I did that. And Steve, I guess, had been in the audience, and at the time, Bruce Luce, who had been singing for Flipper, was having all kinds of back problems and drug problems. I'm not sure what all it was, but they were looking for a singer. And so Steve said that in the running, they had Keith Morris, Moby, Ian MacKaye, and me. And I guess once he saw me do that song with Helios Creed and Chrome, he wanted me to do it. So he called me up and said, "Hey, would you sing for Flipper?" And I went, "Okay."
How do you think Moby would fare?
I don't know. Apparently he's a big fan, but I'm not familiar enough with Moby to answer that question.
Yeah, I remember I saw Moby has these big animal rights tattoos on his forearms. And that's, yeah.
I don't have any tattoos on my forearms.
How many, do you have any tattoos, David Yao?
I have 2 tattoos. I have tattoo. Tat squared. Yeah, here, this one, this is my first one. The Jesus Lizard was on tour in at some point, I think 91 or 92, this fella in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, named Tom Blackmar got in touch with a record company and said that he would give us tattoos if we wanted. And so I'd thought about tattoos for a long time. Would I get, a dotted line around my neck or something like that? And I just wanted to get a comma. So I got this comma on my arm here. But
I like that.
It's kind of a smooth now. It looks more like a kidney bean. but it does a trick. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Comma. Apostrophe.
There you go. So when you're singing for the band Flipper, how does that differentiate from what you did with the Jesus Lizard? Like, do you have a different mindset going into it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the Jesus Lizard stuff, I was instrumental in creating all of it. And I didn't create any of this stuff that we're doing with Flipper. So I'm not sure exactly how much that affects my performance. I had a lot more freedom with the Jesus Lizard because I could just do whatever I wanted at any time. Well, that's not completely true because we had song structures. Most of these Flipper songs don't really have a structure, It's like start and then when it's over, stop. And,
pretty much.
Yeah. Some of them are just so it's just, a bass line that goes for 3 minutes. And I do like that. It's kind of up to me to decide on how long these songs are. I can make them shorter, or I can make them longer. I love to make Sacrifice a long one. Was it last night that we did it 7 minutes, or the night before? You said New Orleans was 7 minutes.
We did a 6.5 minute sex bomb in New Orleans.
Oh.
But last night, I mean, yeah, it all depends, I think, on your mood, how you're feeling, how long Sacrifice goes. I mean, there are times when we're doing Sacrifice where you'll just sit and kind of look at the audience for a period of time. And then you just get all riled up. Now, I overheard you saying backstage that when you perform that song, you feel like you're... Wait, you describe it better than I would. That song in particular, a couple of the Flipper songs make me feel sort of powerful, and Sacrifice makes me feel like a silverback gorilla because I'm a little fella and I'm a nice fella. And I don't fight or tear people up. But I feel like if somebody tried to fuck with me while doing Sacrifice, I'd just rip their arms off and beat them to death with them. When I was playing bass last night, we were doing Getaway, and I saw David push a young man with a mustache, and he got away.
Yeah, he did get away. Well, he kept elbowing me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he kept elbowing me, so I said, well, fuck you.
Now, I wanted to comment because I've gotten to know you over the last however many days as a human being off stage. Now, is there a switch that you flip when you're getting ready to perform with any of your acts? Because you're definitely, your intensity, you're a different dude when you're performing. How would you describe it, like in your own experience? Like, what is there a ritual that you do to get yourself going, or is it just the music starts and you're changed?
Yeah, it's liquor, and typically a lager or pilsner and some whiskey.
Okay.
And I like that the verb you chose, a flip. Is there a switch that I flip? Because then I would be a real switch flipper.
Yeah, you be flipping.
That's right.
Get
Not
it?
flippant.
Switch flipper.
I don't. Yeah, I've been asked that 1,000 times. I don't know the answer to it.
Do you feel like music?
Well, I do. I recognize that it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And people pay their hard-earned money, and so I want them to walk away going, "Fuck, that was great."
Yeah.
And I think that some of the bands that I was sort of weaned on in the punk rock days in Austin, like the Dicks and the Butthole Surfers and Sharon Tate's Baby and stuff, they were really, really amazing to watch. And I think that was sort of a catalyst for me. And, with the Jesus Lizard and Scratch Acid, some of the songs were good enough to where I just... it kind of is like gas to a car, fuel, make it go better, faster.
Make it go better.
Someone's getting impatient.
Yeah, I don't think if you honk at an overturned semi, it's just going to like magically remove itself.
That's so funny.
Like, who's honking back there?
I don't know. You want me to tell him to shut up?
Yeah, you can tell him to
No,
shut
it's
up.
funny.
So... David, you were saying that when you were 15, you landed in Austin, and also I remember that here it's a police officer. Maybe that's why they were honking. But on the day we met in Brooklyn, you said your father was a fighter pilot. Is that correct?
That is correct. My dad was a fighter pilot in the United States Air Force.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure. No, that's still happening. Yeah, I had relatively strict upbringing because he was a fighter pilot in the Air Force. He flew F-105 Thunder Chiefs in Vietnam. He was based out of Korea. And the Red River Rats, I think it was, his squadron or whatever. He flew something like 115 missions in Vietnam.
Wow.
I think typically you're only supposed to fly 100, but I think they all fly over 100.
Is there a cap on it? Is that how that works? Like the number 100, how is that determined?
I think just they have a tour of duty over there in the war, and they just say like, okay, you got to fly 100 missions.
Interesting.
Yeah, I believe that's the way it goes.
Okay.
But yeah, he was. He always said that he'd introduce himself as I'm Lambeth Yao, world's greatest fighter pilot. And not too long ago, I met someone who knew him years and years and years ago. They said that he was the world's greatest fighter pilot.
Wow.
Yeah.
His first name was?
Frank. His name was Frank Lambeth Yao, but he referred to himself as Lambeth.
Okay, so he went by his middle name.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so you lived all over the place before you landed in Austin.
Yeah, I was born in Las Vegas, and then we moved to North Africa, in Libya, in Tripoli. And then, where did we go after that? North Carolina, in Durham, and then Fairfax, Virginia, and then Oxfordshire, the Midlands in England, and then to Austin, Texas.
Did you like bouncing around like that?
I don't think I minded it. I didn't know any other way,
right.
So it just seemed normal to me. Yeah, I don't think I liked it. I got to see stuff, and I remember when we moved away from North Africa. I think I was 6, and we stopped off in Germany to visit some friends of my parents on the way back to the United States. And I had just spent my whole life, in Nevada, and then on the south coast of the Mediterranean, so I didn't know grass. I didn't know what grass looked like.
Whoa.
And my sister, there's Yao home movies of my sister and me, like looking at this grass in Germany. It's bright green, perfect grass. And we're going like, wow, can you touch it? And there's pictures of us touching the grass.
How many siblings do you have?
Just one, my sister.
Okay. I have a brother and a sister.
You do?
Not that anyone cares. What's funny is when I do these podcasts, like there's some of them where I just go on monologues about my life and I talk about stuff. But when I have guests, generally, the people who know the guests will pop on, and then they'll yell at me for not knowing enough about the guest. But that's the whole thing about a podcast. It's a conversation. and you get to know more about the guest through questions.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Stories.
Yeah, if you knew everything about him, why talk to him?
That's a thing. But there's a lot of devotees. I interviewed some of the guys from Fishbone and like HR from Bad Brains. People pick apart your words. So all the Yao heads out there just want to say, hey, I'm getting to know David. He's a nice gentleman. He bought me Mexican food the other night.
He did.
Yeah, we were in Texas.
I didn't mind.
We drank a beer the other night, and you were like, keep your hands to yourself. And I was like, yo, make me. And then you got in my face, and you were like, yo, keep your hands to yourself. And I was like, I love you. And you're like, I love you too, man. And then we went to the hotel room and fell asleep.
It was 69.
That was a lovely story.
That was a lovely story.
So when did you start was it Austin where you started watching live bands?
Yeah. I was living in Austin. My first concert was May 21st, I think, 1977, when I took a bus with a friend of mine from Austin to Houston to see Led Zeppelin. And the ticket was $9.85. No opening band.
Was that a stadium?
It was a place called the Summit, which I think now is one of those super duper giant mega churches. I'm not sure what the capacity there is, but it was a big place.
Was that a life-changing experience for you?
Yeah. Well, I was floored. I mean, I couldn't believe I was seeing Led Zeppelin. I really dug it. It was also, I was just learning photography then. I had just gotten an SLR camera, and I knew it had 3 variables with the aperture, the shutter speed, and the film speed. And I didn't know I was just changing those around the whole time, and took about 200 pictures, most of which I don't have anymore. Yeah, and then my next concert was Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show at this weird little place in Austin. Then I saw Frank Zappa at the Armadillo World headquarters, and then after that, it's just a blur. And then...
Do you remember who was in Zappa's band when you saw him play?
Yeah, Adrian Ballou was on guitar, Terry Bozzio, Patrick O'Hearn.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So when was the first time you saw like a small show where maybe in your head the light bulb went off? Hey, anyone can do
That's
this.
so clear. Halloween of 1979. A friend of mine and I had seen there was an article in Rolling Stone about punk rock and Texas punk rock, and there was an Austin band called the Huns, and as I recall, the article said that they were in a war with a Dallas band called the Vomit Pigs, and that they were like trying to out-punk each other or something.
That's a great name.
Yeah. But my friend and I went to go see the Huns on Halloween 1979, and it completely changed my life. I was in college at the time, working on an fine arts major at Southwest Texas State University, and after I saw that punk rock, I went, I don't want to do school anymore. And I kind of quit college and just started going to punk shows. And somebody said, why don't you be in a band? And I said, I don't play any instruments. And they said, well, learn. And so I bought like a $40 bass guitar, and so we started a band called Toxic Shock, and I was the bass player. And I don't think we lasted that. I think we were a band for maybe 9 months or something like that, but it was really, really, really fun. And then Ray Washam and Brett Bradford from a band called Jerry's Kids were talking to me about forming a band, and we were going to do Scratch Acid. And we had a singer named Steve Anderson, and David Sims was on guitar, and Brett Bradford was on guitar. And Steve would come to practice and either be too drunk or not drunk enough to to practice, and he didn't want to sing because he said that would ruin his voice for the shows. And so we did a show without him. We didn't tell him we were doing it, and we did a few songs instrumental, and then we kind of kicked him out of the band, and David switched to bass, and I became the singer. And yeah, I think our first show was at the Skyline Club in Austin. It was Scratch Acid, the Butthole Surfers, the Big Boys, and TSOL.
What a lineup, dude. Fuck.
Yeah. And I was so nervous that I threw up all day long the before the show. And Brett got a bunch of acid. We gave out like 80 hits of acid. Yeah, and then I met you.
Yeah. Flash forward however many years.
That's how we met you.
So was that your first show with Scratch Acid singing? Was that lineup?
Yes.
Okay. And you hadn't sung before?
Never.
Okay.
Well, not in front of anybody.
Wow. What was it? So was that the order of the bands?
Yeah.
Okay, say it one more time.
Scratch Acid, Butthole Surfers, Big Boys, and TSOL.
So were y'all the first band?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what was the Austin scene like back then?
It was really diverse.
Did you fart, dude?
I did.
Oh, you did.
There you go.
Sorry, they don't usually stink.
Yeah, that one stunk.
It was really diverse, the Austin punk scene. There were a whole lot of gays in the scene. I don't know that was as common throughout the United States as it was down here or in Austin. It was just very friendly. Everybody kind of got along, and the bills would be 4 bands that didn't sound anything like it would be a weird electronic new wave band with a hardcore punk rock band and some sort of Ultravox kind of thing. But it was really diverse and fun, and it was great. I mean, it completely changed my life. It's at the time that it seemed like everything sort of centered near the UT campus. And so all the frats, the fraternity boys, it was like a war between the punks and the frats. And that was always kind of kind of entertaining. Helped me with my attitude, I think.
Yeah, because, I mean, there was back in nowadays football players have mohawks and shit.
Yeah.
It's been like indoctrinated. The whole fashion has become very mainstream over the years. But in the 80s, I mean, you'd get in a fight just for looking weird, right?
Sure, yeah. But yeah, like I remember this guy I mentioned earlier, Steve Anderson and I, we were just walking down this little alley, and this car pulled up behind us, and the passenger got out, and it was this frat boy, and he was saying, "Hey, fuck you," and we turned around and we're walking towards him, and the guy in the driver's seat goes going, "Get in the car, man! Get in the fucking car! Look at those guys! Get in the car! Get in the fucking car!" And I mean, it was me and Steve walking towards him, but the guy was scared shitless, and so they left. And I remember one time there was a club. Raoul's was sort of the hub of all this stuff. We were very often I didn't have the $3 to get in, so we just stand outside and listen from the outside. And one time there was this frat boy giving us a hard time, and he was wearing an Izod shirt with a little alligator.
Oh yeah.
And I bit the alligator off his shirt, and he ran away.
Yeah. I used to have those when I was a little child, the Izod.
I had a red Izod hoodie that like I wore all the time, and what's it called? I was just so attached to it. I wore it down till nothing, and when I finally got rid of it, everybody was like, "Oh, so you're not a jock?" And I'm like, "No."
Would the Izod shirt signify jock? Was it a jock fashion thing?
It was a frat fashion.
It was a frat fashion thing, kind of like Abercrombie was in the '90s, maybe. Probably.
They always wore pink Izod shirts with khaki pants.
I feel like they haven't really delineated from that uniform. I feel like the khaki pants and the kind of
they still dress that way.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, they don't have imaginations.
Yeah, not like us weirdos. So when did you go to Chicago? Was it when Scratch Acid ended?
Yeah, Scratch Acid broke up in '87, and I moved to Chicago, I think, in April or May of 1988.
And how did that go?
It was weird. There was Ray Washam and David Sims had formed a band with Steve Albini, and I'm not even going to say the name of the band. And Steve had told me that I could be, or Ray had told me that I could be his drum tech, and they were going to be touring, Europe and Japan and stuff. And so I was going, cool, I would love to do that. And then I moved up to Chicago, and Steve said, no, we don't need a drum tech. So I got a job at a restaurant. But yeah, they didn't last very long. They were pretty amazing. They did a record called Two Nuns and a Pack Mule. It's about one of the best drum records ever recorded.
I love the name.
The title of the record.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, and before I left Austin, Dwayne Dennison and David Sims and I had messed around with writing some songs with a drum machine, and but then David and I interrupted it by moving to Chicago. And then after we'd been there for a little while, Dwayne got in touch and said, let's work on those songs and maybe just record those for the hell of it and make an EP. And so we did that and called it the Jesus Lizard. And we gave a tape to Corey at Touch and Go to see if he wanted to do it, to put it out. And he didn't like it very much. And he said, I don't like it very much, but I think you have potential. So I'll do it. And so he put it with the first record, that Pure record that has a drum machine on it. And some years before, like maybe 85 or something like that, I saw a band called 86 from Atlanta, Georgia. I saw them in Austin, and the drummer freaked me out. He was so amazing. And we had a conversation at the bar afterwards saying if we ever get the chance to make music together, we should do that. And of course, we didn't expect anything to come from it. But then when we wanted to get a drummer for the Jesus Lizard, I got in touch with Mac McNeely, and sent him a tape down there to Georgia, and he liked it and wanted to do it. And he said that all his friends said, now when you get up there to Chicago, if they're a bunch of junkies, you just turn right around, come on back home. And we weren't, so he didn't. Yeah, and then we just practiced, 6 days a week, 5 hours a day, and toured like crazy.
Yeah, what were the first shows like out of the gate?
The very first show was organized by a dear friend of mine named Shannon Smith. There was a Thai restaurant on Irving Park in Chicago that we liked a lot called Bangkok. And she put together this show where it's going to be the Jesus Lizard, King Kong, and Slint playing a dinner and show at the Thai restaurant. So everybody ate dinner, and then they moved the tables away, and we played our show. And I was really nervous again, but it was just to friends. It was invitation only. There was maybe 50 people there, but it was full. It's a little restaurant.
Yeah.
And then the next show we played was, you know who Martin Atkins is?
Pigface guy.
Yeah. And Public Image and Killing Joke and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We had become friends, and he had us play on the roof of his building in Rogers Park. And that was weird because it was nighttime and we were up on a roof, and they only had like 2 lights that were like, I don't know what they call them, those
floodlights.
Sort of those clip-on things.
Okay, yeah, like we have at the merch table.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the sort of silver semi-ball thing. Anyway, yeah, and so there were a gazillion bugs just flying in my mouth and just everywhere. And then the cops came and arrested Martin for having us play on the roof. And then we played at an in-store at a record store that I can't remember the name of it. And I wore a green leather dress that a friend of my girlfriend's had. And then we did a show at, I think it was called Edge of the Looking Glass, opening for 11th Dream Day. And then after that, we just started touring like crazy.
When did y'all pick up steam to the point where y'all became like kind of the juggernaut, where the live show was this chaotic thing that a lot of people would come to and tell their friends? Like how many years did it take before that reputation started happening?
Not that many. I don't remember what year Goat came out. what it was, Pure Head Goat.
And they're all 4-letter titles, correct?
Yeah, all of the records were. I don't know when that was. I think the first tour we did, God, I wish I had the Jesus Lizard book. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
Has David Sims documented or had a list of every show we did.
Oh, wow.
And that's a good reference. You can look in there and see, what clubs we were playing and who we played with and stuff like that.
Very organized.
Yeah, it's really good. I'll get you a copy of the book.
For being a band that the reputation is chaos, to be that, or like, I don't even have every show written down that I did like 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the list has whether we opened or headlined, who we played with, where it was, and the date. And his list that's not published also had how much money we made, and we didn't put it in the book. And in retrospect, I wish we had, because there's nothing embarrassing about it. It's like, there was the time we got paid $38 in fucking Connecticut, or the time the guy said he paid us and he didn't. Or then, then some of the reenactment shows, we made a shit ton of money. And I don't mind if people know how much we made on those. It's, so I wish that was in the list as well.
It's just kind of part of the story.
Yeah. So I don't know when it happened that we gained more popularity and some sort of a reputation.
Was it based on the live shows, or was there some sort of music video, or was there an album that you felt really connected?
Well, I think Goat changed everything, like, for us.
Yeah.
People really seemed to like that record, and they loved Steve's production on it and the drum sound and all that kind of shit. So I think, sometime around Goat.
91.
Is that 91?
Came out in 91.
91 is a great year for music.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Here, Weston's going to ask a question.
So, out of all the records you did with the Jesus Lizard, which one would you say is your favorite? Whether it be like the song content or like the memories you have attached to it, or just like overall, like what is your favorite record you put out with that project?
I don't know. Not Down.
You don't like that?
It just sounds like shit. The songs aren't that great, and it sounds like shit.
Man, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Well, art is subjective, Weston.
I know, art is subjective.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that. I can't answer that.
So, did you go to LA after the Jesus Lizard split?
Yes. I guess we broke up in 97. No. Yeah. Wait. Yeah, 97, I think. Fuck, I don't know. 97 or 99, one or the other. And we did the longest single tour we'd ever done, 8 weeks in Europe. And then a few months later, there was one show in Sweden, and after we got back from that, we'd signed a 3-record contract with Capitol, and we'd only done 2 records, but they weren't selling anything. So Capitol called up the management and said, you can go, you don't have to make a 3rd record. And I said, great, I quit. And
just like that.
Yeah. And, well, it wasn't the Jesus Lizard anymore. Mac had left before we did Blue, and got this other guy to play drums, and it just became a job instead of the fun, creative, rolling, crazy monster it had been. So, yeah, but I had bought a house and I was making some money and everything, and I was married, and we lived in Northwest Indiana in Crown Point, and I was going, man, how am I going to maintain this, this mortgage and all that kind of stuff? And I was thinking I'd probably do some construction, because I had done some of that, or I didn't want to cook anymore. And then I saw this article. I had been fucking around with Photoshop since version 2, before layers.
Yeah.
Version 3 was the first one to have layers.
No shit.
Yeah. And I had gotten reasonably good at it, and I saw this article that said, as a photo retoucher, you can make, $200 an hour. And I went, okay. And so I made up this sort of portfolio and went to some places and got a job as doing some photo retouching. And so I did that for a while in Chicago. And it really grossed me out, though, because it wasn't creative. It was like just make these horrible things like in-store Frito-Lay displays with John Madden and just garbage like that. And I loathed it. I just hated marketing. Just made me sick. And my wife had been born in California, and she wanted to move there. And I said, cool, well, if I was just doing it for the movie biz, like posters and billboards for movies, it's still marketing, but it's harmless, It's not making people do things that they don't want to do and shit.
Yeah, you're marketing a film.
Yeah.
As opposed to a product. I mean, it is a product, but it's a story. It's somewhat creative.
It's better than,
It's not John Madden with Fritos.
It's not Absolute Vodka and Lay's potato chips. And I had done a little bit of acting, and I was mildly interested in pursuing that. So I think in 2002, maybe 2001, we moved to California. My wife and me.
Did you initially miss the band, or were you kind of just like, fuck that grind was, I'm over that grind?
Oh, we're moving.
Oh, we're moving now.
Oh shit.
Here, let's pause this.
Should I stop the video?
Yeah. Hey, you made it to the end. What did you think? Sign up for the $5 tier on Patreon. $5 and up, you get to see everything we do as we're doing it. Be a part of this community and help this shit get made. So that's my spiel. Sign up for the Patreon and see you in the next video.